12 hours, what you should do is this sourdough starter, take a clean jar and then transfer 100 grams of sourdough starter, and then repeat the same process, which is 100 ml of water and 100 grams of flour. So the flour is you require to use organic all-purpose flour. So transfer, mix, and then what's it called? Put inside the starter, and then also let it ferment for 12 hours. So this process, remember, is you need to do 2 days and 4 times. So usually what you need to do is the 200 we will transfer into another big jar, or you can use back the same one, and then this 200 you keep in the refrigerator, and then the 100 one you feed with 100 flour and water, you let it ferment at room temperature. So over the times you will have 100, 200, you have a lot of stock. So usually customer will ask, how am I supposed to know my sourdough starter is it active or not? Yeah, so let me show you some image on how to know whether your sourdough is it active and is it ready to for baking. Usually a lot of people, they concern whether their sourdough starter is it ready to be used or not. Continue our video until the end. We will teach you step by step to troubleshooting on your sourdough starter. So later my colleague will show you some image how to know whether your starter is it active or not. Based on the image, okay, you can see a lot of bubble on your sourdough starter, or sometimes your sourdough starter it will overflow, means your sourdough starter is very active. Usually this type of situation will happen after you second feed them. Yeah, and then a lot of people will ask, how old is our sourdough starter? Our sourdough starter is 6 years, and then we have been feeding them all this while with organic all-purpose flour. Feed them frequently, and then we of course we discard some of the extra one. Yeah, sourdough, if you want to maintain your sourdough, you have to constantly feed them and discard. So the discard one, what you can do is you can do for baking, or or you can donate it to your friend, or just throw it away. That's all. And then a lot of people will ask like, how come my sourdough is got the sour smell? So all this smell is totally normal, because this is fermentation. So sourdough have this sour smell, but when you constantly feed them, the smell will reduce, and then the taste also will reduce. A lot of people will ask, how frequent should I feed my sourdough? Okay, so the answer for this question is pretty simple. After you feed your sourdough 2 days ready at room temperature, what you can do is the whole sourdough, right? You take some out for baking, and then the remaining you keep in the refrigerator and feed them slowly. So what is the proportion for feeding them? Okay, as in our earlier video we mentioned here, 100 is you purchase from us, and then 100 flour, 100 water, so all in you have 300. Okay, so once you see your sourdough is very active, right, you need to use some for baking, and then the remaining is for you to keep into the refrigerator. So I assume you use 100 grams for baking, so here remaining is 200. So you just follow our recipe, our instruction, like 100 flour and 100 water. You just measure and then pour inside here, and then the whole glass we keep in the refrigerator. And you need not to keep them at room temperature, because if you keep them at room temperature, you have to feed them 1 day 2 times. My recommendation for feeding them is 3 times in a week, which means like today you feed them already 100 gram flour, 100 gram water, and then after 2 days you feed them again. Remember, feed them constantly. How come my sourdough starter is once I receive how come once I receive my sourdough starter, how come my sourdough starter is very thin? Okay, so for your information, sourdough starter, when you feed it, it is quite thick, because the just now, as you can see our video, when I mix the water and flour, right, it's very thick. But after 24 hours, the carbohydrate or the starch in the flour is being break down by the sourdough starter, so it become liquid. So this is totally normal. If you want a very thick sourdough starter, right, you have to feed them, then it will look thick. When after 12 hours, your sourdough starter will become liquid. So this is totally normal. So I think that's all for today, or the Q&A session. Yeah, so if you have any more question want to ask regarding your sourdough feeding and maintenance, you can text us at the chat there. So thank you for watching and stay safe. Bye.